When I was in a relationship previously, I used to put people on clocks. So like at certain times we don't talk, do you know what I mean? If I'm busy, we might not speak for 2 weeks. And I know that's crazy because you might be my girlfriend and you're like, how can I not talk to my boyfriend every single day?
Yeah.
To me, that's crazy. Like, you want to talk to me every single day. Like, I can't breathe.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Junaid. Welcome to the From Black Men podcast, where we talk about black men's stories across different aspects of their lives. Today I'm joined with Josh and we'll be talking about vulnerability and relationships. So Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm good. So, yeah, I've been good. Not too bad, busy day, but yeah, I'm good.
Okay, that's good. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Joshua. I'm 25. I'm Nigerian. I mean, I don't really have anything much more to say apart from I recently got engaged. So, yeah, so that's, I guess, a new thing that is now about me.
Yeah.
So that I need to remember. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that even flows very nicely with this conversation because now you're engaged, but I know it's been a journey.
Yeah.
Before even, you know, you being where you are with your fiance. So what were you like as a child growing up in the relationships in your life as well?
As a child growing up in relationships, that's a good one. I'm a very big introvert, to be fair. So I actually, like, relationships for me is actually a weird concept in a weird sense, because when you're like an introvert growing up, it's like you don't really have many relationships. Just to like give you an idea of how bad my introversy was, if that's a word, was I didn't start talking till I was 2 years old.
Okay.
Right, and like my parents were so scared that basically every night my mum used to put anointing oil on my lips to go to sleep, and she used to pray, because at one point they thought I might have been like deaf and dumb or something like that. And they just were really confused, like why I just couldn't really interact or talk to people and stuff like that. And I think that probably carried with me a lot through my relationships going on the years. So yeah, so relationships for me is actually a very weird thing, because I've not had that many in terms of like relationships with people. This is beyond just romantic stuff, like just even friendships and stuff. I haven't had that many because I guess some people have natural social skills. Yeah. I would say I was unfortunately in the category that didn't really have those natural social skills, but yeah.
And with you said that not having natural social skills, how did that present itself in like secondary school, primary school?
I think for me, presenting itself, like looking back now, it probably presented itself in the sense of like weird, where I never really felt connected to anyone. You know, like obviously there's people that I knew that I was friends with, and like people knew me as well. And we could have like great conversations, good conversations, but it was always a lot more work for me, I think, than maybe most people realized.
Yeah.
And so I just never really felt connected to anyone, and I felt most of the time by myself and alone.
Yeah.
And I don't say that in a bad way. I think one of the pros of being an introvert is you actually kind of enjoy being by yourself, and you kind of enjoy that company. But then at the same time, I don't know if that's just a consequence of just having poor social skills, that you just get used to kind of being by yourself. So yeah, I wouldn't say I had like many friends or stuff like that, but I would say definitely I think I struggled to make friends. And I struggled to maintain friends. I think that was my biggest con. Like, we could be good friends, but you might not hear from me for months.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And then I might pick up the phone one day and shout at you and see how you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the time people had issues with me as a friend, because they were like I know you're there for me, but you're not consistently available and present for me in that sense. And I think some people just thought I just didn't want to be their friend, but I think it wasn't really that. It was just that, I didn't feel connected to anyone. I always felt like I was by myself and kind of out of place with the wider sort of community in terms of either friends or just people in secondary school. So yeah, is kind of how I would describe it. Like, yeah, relationships, I think for me, are a difficult thing. Yeah. I don't know why necessarily, besides being an introvert. Maybe just my social skills are just not that great. But yeah, it's a difficult thing for me, I think.
What does that look like for you now as an adult?
I think as an adult, it's got better now as an adult. I think I've been a lot more intentional about my relationships with people. And like I try to like, so just funnily, that one of the things I do, which sounds weird, it's like I schedule people in my calendar as to like when I'm going to catch up with them, because if I don't do that, we may never talk for years. Do you know what I mean? And we could be great friends, but we might never talk for years. Yeah. And it's not because I have any issues with you. Like, once we have a conversation, it's going to be all love, you know. It's just, I think I become so like deep into being by myself that I think having relationships now as an adult, I really have to be intentional about them. And I think as you kind of grow, everyone knows, like, all of a sudden it goes from we see each other every day where we can knock it up and have a conversation to I actually have to ask you 3 months in advance when you're going to be free for us to schedule a time. And so, I think for me it's definitely a lot more difficult, but I found ways to be able to cope with it and kind of navigate those relationships. I still get comments now, like, people are like, I haven't heard from you for months, like, what's going on, like, are you right, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Like, it's just like, I really have to work hard, I think, to be intentional. And so that's why now, like, I don't have a lot of friends. And I think I had this conversation with you one time. I think someone was like, you're not a very friendly person, Josh. And it's like, it's not that I'm not a friendly person, it's that in my head, there's a lot of work to maintain a friendship. And because I'm so intentional about it, it's like, if I'm going to have an additional friend on the roster, in a sense, it needs to make sense. I need to have capacity to do that. And I need to have capacity to be able to maintain that and be a genuinely good friend, like, and actually speak to you, not just be like a virtual pen pal sort of thing. So, so I think for me, it's a lot more intentionality about my friendships and my relationships as well.
And with everything you described about initially struggling to connect with people, have like social skills, even maintaining friendships, how did that show up in your romantic life?
I mean, it showed up really badly. I'm not gonna lie, like, you know, because like, if you piece it together, if I have bad social skills, and I'm a big introvert, right, and I don't connect with people naturally, and then you put me in a romantic setting, like, that's just a recipe for disaster. And I feel sorry for every girl that probably spoke to me at that time, because I just wasn't equipped with the right tools to be able to be a good boyfriend. So to give you examples, like, this is genuine, real examples, and some of my friends know this. You know, when I was in a relationship previously, I used to put people on clocks. So like, at certain times we don't talk. Do you know what I mean? If I'm busy, we might not speak for 2 weeks. And I know that's crazy, because you might be my girlfriend and you're like, how can I not talk to my boyfriend every single day? To me, that's crazy. Like, you want to talk to me every single day. Like, I can't breathe. And it's not because the girl's clingy. It's just that, unfortunately, she got paired with a guy who's like just the wrong makeup as to what is needed. And so for me, I used to very easily feel overwhelmed. And it might sound like I hate my girlfriend. It wasn't like that. And just not my current girlfriend, but a lot of people used to think I hated my partners at the time, but it wasn't that. I think it was just that I had very bad tendencies socially that obviously spilled into romantic relationships. And so, so like I said, and that creates a feeling of frustration, because then your girlfriend or your partner might be like, why can't I contact you all the time? Why can't I speak to you all the time? Like, for example, when I was studying for my exams, I was just like, look, you can't speak to me for the next 2 weeks. Like, I'm studying, I'm in the books, like, don't talk to me. Like, you know, I'll call you if I can, if I can't. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes she'll message me like, okay, are you free now? I'm not free right now. I'll call you when I'm free. Do you know what I mean? And so that was a very difficult dynamic, and it creates a lot of issues in the relationship, because one of them is trust, because, you know, not in a bad way, but women and trust can be a difficult thing, because if you feel like your man is unavailable, the next question is like, okay, who is he talking to? And then it's like, okay, cool, is he doing something he's not supposed to be doing? And the truth is, I wasn't. I was just not the best socially, so it comes across as mistrust. And then I think that as well creates a lot of issues. So I had a lot of issues, I think, with girls. Just to give you like a genuine context of how bad probably the issues were, and kind of we'll probably talk about how it's improved now, is like, you know, girls have said to me like, why do you hate me? Like, genuinely, I've got comments like, oh, you don't have a heart, your heart is cold, all these sort of comments. And it wasn't like, I've had the you don't like me comments, and it wasn't like that. It was just like I said, I think the makeup of me back then socially was just not, actually I had no business being there, basically. Like, I just weren't geared for it. And I think, and that's kind of how it showed up, I think. So basically in one word, it was a shambles. It was a mess.
So with what you've described, so for example, like you mentioned, telling like an ex-partner, you can't talk to me for 2 weeks, or being quite dismissive, from a female point of view, how would a woman or a partner, a female partner in particular, navigate being with somebody like that? Because you're describing as, I just have social, but that it can be very hard to like reconcile, make sense of what that is.
My best advice, and to everybody listening, don't be with that partner. Just don't. Like, don't. It has a lot of consequences that I think you just don't want to put yourself through. And I think it's not a you problem. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Is sometimes it's, as a woman, it's not a you problem, it's a man problem. Do you know what I mean? And I think sometimes you have to accept that it is a man problem, and that sometimes some men need to just recognize that within themselves, those issues, and find a way to fix that, to navigate that, and to like understand what is causing those issues. Like for me, there was a variety of reasons that was causing those issues, yeah, and I needed the time, and God really helped me as well. Like my faith definitely really helped me to really kind of have a better perspective of kind of what those issues were.
Yeah.
But my genuine like advice is, don't be with a man like that. If you encounter a man like that, run, like leave it, like don't talk to him, don't be interested, because it has a lot of damage. Because the issue is, he at the time can't recognize that that's what is the issue. So to give you an example, it's like, it'll be like, okay, no, you need to talk to me more, you need to call me more. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And then it's like, I try really hard to, right? And for like first 2 weeks, I'm really good, like I'm really on job, I'm da. Then I fall off again, and then it's like we get into this cycle of I try really hard again and I fall off, and it becomes difficult. And then any normal woman who likes you or who's in a relationship with you will start to feel neglected.
Yeah.
Will start to feel like you don't care about her, will start to feel like she's not a priority in your life. And in my brain, it was like, this is me being real, like in my brain, it's like, how can a woman be a priority in my life? Like, I just don't, I couldn't really understand that at the time. Do you know what I mean? And I couldn't really understand why I had to talk to you every day, and why we had to interact every day, and we had to conversate every day. And you might think, but this is a relationship, that's what people do. In my head, no, that's not. For someone who's not connected to relationship and didn't have like experience in relationships, that's odd to me. Like that's too much. That's like, and this is not, like I said, this is not people being clingy.
Yeah.
This is just matched with poor social skills, sort of communication and stuff like that. So don't be with a guy like that.
Just to zoom out with what you described, is that something you've also noticed patterns in other male friends or other men in your life, or would you say it was like just something you experienced?
No, I wouldn't even say it's a me problem. I'll say it's a many men problem. Like I have friends, I have people that I know as well who are definitely dealing with very similar things, and some of them don't necessarily yet know that it's kind of along those lines.
Okay.
And sometimes it's not because of introversy, it's not because of like they want to be to themselves. Sometimes it's because some men just don't yet understand how to properly interact with a woman. And so, for example, like the very common case everyone knows is when, like, if a man's going through something, all of a sudden he goes quiet, you don't hear from him. He might start becoming a bit snappy, a bit moody, and that withdrawal is like a way of him kind of like coming away from you. And then because he withdraws, the woman naturally wants to go closer because she wants to try and bring him back. And then by you trying hard to bring him back, he withdraws even further. And you get into this weird cycle. And so men experience very similar things in similar ways. And so I don't think it's necessarily, I think the extreme to which mine was might have been a few people problem, but I think the tendencies are very much a many men problem in that sense. And so I think a lot of men need to sometimes just sit down and think about how they interact with women and how they're vulnerable with women and how they express that vulnerability. And if they can't express that vulnerability, why they can't express that vulnerability, and really think about kind of how to be intentional with that in a sense.
And what would you say was the turning point for you then?
I think the turning point for me was, you know what, it was God, you know, I had an encounter with God. I'm being so real, like, you know, and I think maybe, I don't know, I think now looking back, maybe it was that bad that God had to step in. Do you know what I mean? It was divine intervention, definitely. So I think one night, I can't remember, I think one night I just had a very difficult conversation with you know, some people, like someone I was talking to at the time, and her the way she expressed how I had affected her in terms of, I think, emotionally, made me really like start to think about like, okay, maybe I have a problem here. And then I think my mum mentioned something similar, and she was like, Josh, you don't call me enough, you know, and sometimes you don't talk to me, and sometimes it's really hard to reach you. And I think my sibling said something similar too, and then I started to think, okay, cool, maybe this is like a genuine me problem, you know. And then I think I prayed about it, and then I had a dream basically God telling me like, yo, you got a problem here, like, do you know what I mean? Like, and you know it's serious when you get in a dream. Do you know what I mean? And it's serious when it's like, you don't get a dream of like you're doing something wrong like physically. And it's like you're doing something wrong emotionally and mentally. And it's like, when you get that sort of revelation, it's like, you know, God's talking that, bro, you got issues here. And so, like, and then what happened was, and fortunately enough, God gave me very specific instructions on how to deal with that.
Okay.
And so, just like, for example, he told me I needed a year. That I needed a year to be by myself, to really focus, and for him to really open my heart up, to really understand what it is that I had these issues with. And so, like, just to be completely transparent, I had a girlfriend at the time, and we had this very difficult conversation, and I had to tell her, like, imagine trying to explain to someone, like, look, I need to take a year out of this relationship, right? And, you know, after the year, maybe I come back, maybe I don't come back, maybe we work out, you know what I mean? And it's like, are you wasting my time? Are you a time waster here? Are you one of those guys that's trying to play? And it was a very weird, difficult conversation, because it's like, I'm not going to wait for you. I'm not asking you to wait for me. And I don't know what God's going to do. So it's like, it's such a weird conversation. And eventually, we agreed just to part ways for a year and to see what happens after that. And that's a whole nother story as to like what happened in that year and kind of where we ended up after that. But yeah, and I think it was definitely divine intervention that kind of made me realize that I have a problem here, and I need to do something about it.
So you've come to this point of realization. You've got a problem. You've got the dream. Your mum mentioned that you don't contact her enough. Your siblings have also mentioned certain things. How do you, like, what does it look like now for you? Like, currently, you're now, you know, engaged to somebody. What has that change looked like? Like, practically, actual examples.
There's been a lot of change.
Okay.
Like, I've had to really, I think in that year, God really opened my capacity to learn. You know, and I think that's one of the biggest things as a man. Like, and I know I say this a lot. We've had this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, you say as a man.
As a man.
And it just became my lingo for a while, because I think in that year, one of the things that I was really thinking about, and God was really talking to me about a lot, was, you know, what kind of man do you want to be? Right? Like, what kind of man do you want to be? Like, you want to be a man of honesty, integrity, but what kind of, like, when they talk about you, what kind of man do you want to represent and do you want to present?
That's a good question.
And I looked at people in the Bible, do you know what I mean? That was my first sort of starting point, like David, Isaac, you know, loads of men in the Bible, and kind of looked at their good qualities, looked at their bad qualities. Like David, for example, was a great leader, right? Yeah. Like, there was a king on the throne at the time, and he still had men following him. Like, he was a great leader.
This is a lot,
But when he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, he fell, and his fall led to, you know, his children doing crazy things. One of them tried to kill him. Yeah. One of them raped his sister. Yeah. And like, so many things happened because of just that one mistake of being at the wrong time. He decided to do something he shouldn't have done. Yeah. And so for me, like, God was really showing me, like, look, they are great men, but they also have great flaws. And so you really need to be thinking intentionally about what kind of man do you want to be. Yeah. And, you know, faith-wise, like, just genuinely. And so I think for me now is one of the things that I wanted to be was intentional. I really wanted to be intentional in my relationships, really thinking about, I want to be there for people, I want to support people, I want to be there to help them, and I want to be a genuine friend. And so what does that look like? When people need your help, being there. But one of the things I think for me was with intentionality, being proactive. Your friend doesn't always need to ask you for help for you to be there, right? And sometimes looking for the gaps and thinking, where can I fill in those gaps without them necessarily, you know, asking me for stuff or supporting me and stuff. So yeah, and I think, and another practical example, kind of from my relationship as well, is like my fiance now. She's really been able to learn how to deal with me a lot better. You know, one of the things that we had when we first started talking was, so every Friday I had a Friday night off, right? And I know that sounds crazy, because you're thinking like my relationship's stressful. It's really not. It's just, it was helpful for me to help be able to maintain some sort of balance. Do you know what I mean? I've come from someone who's like, I don't want to talk to you every day, to like, my fiance was very adamant, like, look, we talk every day, like, we're not compromising on this. Right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool, let's balance this out by give me one Friday night, where I can just bake off, watch popcorn, I don't know, eat popcorn, watch movies, just do whatever I want to do. Right? And just have some space to still maintain some level of by myself. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And we've done that for a while, and it's funny because now it's got to the point where I think in the last year or so we don't actually do that anymore, because naturally I've now just stopped doing it, and I feel a lot more connected to her. So naturally I actually just call her a lot more. Like before it was like there were specific times I called her, now it's like I call her anytime. Do you know what I mean? And I think because she gave me the space to allow me to slowly get there, we got there. But at the same time, I was intentional in that I wanted to get there, and I didn't want to make mistakes that I made before. And I'd learned a lot, so I was very super conscious. Like I was always asking her, like, you know, am I doing this? Like, am I doing that? Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily for validation, but just like, you know what? If doesn't, like, these are my tendencies. I was super open. I was like, look, these are my tendencies. Like, if you see one of them pop up, shout me, like straight away, shout me. Do you know what I mean? So, because I can flake. Do you know what I mean? I'm normal, like I can flake. So let me know so I can put myself back in check and be sure. So I think for me, those are, practical examples. Getting someone that really understands you, but someone that's patient. Like you need a woman that's patient, I think is really important. And really understanding your weaknesses and understanding where your strengths are. And finding ways to work with you on that. I think it's and that's how we've got to where we are now. Like I think, me being honest, like I think probably a month in I knew I was gonna marry her, right? Because the way she dealt with me in that first month was just so caring, but was so considerate, and she wasn't like, oh, you're doing that wrong, you're doing this wrong. She was very understanding, but at the same time she was very challenging. And that's why I always say to her, so you challenge me to be better. Like, if I was not meeting the standard, you would tell me, you're not meeting the standard. I'm going to give you some time, let's work through it. You know, how can I work with you? Yeah. But that does not mean you fall. Like, you still need to meet the standard. So, yeah, like, I think she did really well in doing that. And as a man, there's nothing better as a man, but it's like you are challenged to rise to an occasion. And you can only marry that person, do you know what I mean? Like, what options there are. Like, so, yeah, that's what I'll say. Practical example.
Well, that's so good. I'm actually really happy for you that you've come this far, because to hear your journey of, as you mentioned, the social skills you struggled with from being a kid, having friends tell you that, like, I don't know if I'm your friend or not because of how you may behave, or even having women come to you and be like, do you like me? Do you hate me? Like, why are you doing this? Or why are you saying that I can't talk to you for 2 weeks? Like, that's crazy. To then be engaged, like, it's been a journey. So thank you for taking us on that journey and being open about just how that's been, navigating that and everything. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.